Read a stunning article by Catherine Scholes in the New Yorker this week. And frankly, if I lived right now in the Pacific Northwest, I'd be considering moving. Seriously.
It's predicted to be worse than Hurricane Katrina, worse than the San Francisco earthquake of 1906. Scientists and FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, are warning of a pending doom for the Pacific Northwest. An earthquake along a little-known fault line that would kill thousands and affect millions. The Cascadia subduction zone stretches about 700 miles from Cape Mendocino, California, to Vancouver, Canada. Big cities expected to be affected include Seattle and Portland. Some scientists believe the earthquake, when it goes off, will reach between 8.7 and 9.2 on the Richter scale and cause a tsunami.
The gist of it is this. The federal government estimates 13,000 Americans will die in a major earthquake and tsunami in the Pacific Northwest. It's not a question of whether, but when. This earthquake is coming, and it's overdue. Consider that the magnitude 9.0 earthquake in Japan, just a few years ago, remember that? Killed more than 15,000 people in the north of Japan and injured thousands of others. Seismologists say that the quake that will strike on our Pacific Northwest coastline should be even stronger, at up to a 9.2.
Estimations they're using to plan for a natural disaster in the Pacific Northwest. They project a disaster along this fault line could result in 13,000 people dying, 27,000 people being injured, 1 million people being displaced and needing shelter, and an additional 2.5 million people needing food and water. So these numbers, they really are staggering.
The North American plate here and the Juan de Fuca plate here. This one's sliding up under, and eventually this is going to go down, send a huge wall of water up. That wall will go all the way over to Japan, and the other will come onto our shore within 15 minutes. And when it slips, it will unleash not only a colossal earthquake, but also that tsunami. 700 miles long, and in some places up to a 100-foot high wall of water and whatever it's pushing, like houses and dump trucks and schools. Thousands and thousands will not escape. The New Yorker quotes a FEMA official who says, and I quote, "Our operating assumption is that everything west of Interstate 5 will be toast." Everything west of Interstate 5 is gone. That's Seattle, Tacoma, Portland and Olympia, Salem and Eugene, wiped out. Altogether about 7 million people. That's not including tourists. So think of summertime. This article is stunning. Is it overstated in any way?
No, the Cascadia Fault is an earthquake waiting to happen. We know it's going to happen with an energy 30 times the maximum energy of the San Andreas Fault. So Hollywood has us brainwashed into thinking the big one is going to be in California. No, the Cascadia Fault would pack energy 30 times the energy that the San Andreas Fault can muster.
The article speaks of a liquefaction of the earth, that part of the earth will turn to liquid.
That's right. We're talking about major energy surges inside the ground that'll cause it to liquefy. We've seen that in Japan. We saw that at Fukushima, and it's almost like quicksand. One day you're walking on solid ground, the next you're falling right into a quicksand.
This earthquake would last 4 minutes or more, the rattling and the shaking, and then within 15 minutes they estimate this wall of water in the entire inundation zone. You could have water up to 100 feet high.
That's right, and in the inundation zone we have 70,000 people that have almost no clue as to what could happen.
A massive fault line in California has scientists sounding the horn over an expected major earthquake. Instead of the usual warnings over a quake in the distant future, usually decades, this one is expected any day now. RT's Lindsay France spoke with me earlier from Los Angeles. I asked her, what are the indicators that make this earthquake so urgent?
Well, this earthquake hit across the Hayward Fault. The Hayward Fault runs under the Bay Area, through Oakland, through Berkeley. It runs under a lot of heavily populated areas. This hit about 3 a.m. And it registered a 4.0 on the Richter scale. It was about 5 miles below the surface of the Earth. So what scientists are saying is that this fault line historically has been shown to shift massively and produce a huge earthquake about every 140 years. And right now, we're at 147 years since its last major shift. Now, after this 4.0 earthquake, it was reported that magnitude 1.0 to 2.7 earthquakes, at least a dozen, were reported in that area. So those were aftershocks, and there's a worry that the initial earthquake and along with the aftershocks could put us on the brink of a big one along that fault line. Of course, everyone here is scared of it. I'm scared of it right now, sitting 12 floors above Los Angeles. So it's, you know, it's always scary, but it's really odd that scientists are saying this because it's just such a tight timeline, geologically speaking. To take a look at the shifts, and what they found, alarmingly, is that you can take an earthquake in one area and draw a line to another area and say it's very likely that something here will happen over there, because they're showing that the fault lines are in fact interconnected, and we've got some big ones out here that are connected through little ones. And that is something that scientists have had to accept, and it opens up an entirely new can of worms on predicting what the damage could be. If you take a look at the 1906 San Francisco earthquake that ravaged the city, that city has 100 times the population that it used to.
Blind Laodicea. How blind can we get? Blind Laodicea. The leading the blind of this age, under false pretense, under false creeds, under dogmas that's false, under denominations false, under creed books that's false. Oh, blind Laodicea, leading the blind. You're all headed for the ditch. Change your filter tonight, preacher. Blind Pharisees, Jesus said. And as Jesus cried, blind Pharisees, the Holy Spirit in my own heart tonight cries, blind Laodicea! How if God were to give you a revival, but now your time has come. It's too late now. How did you laugh and make fun of the people that God sent to you? But now your time has come. Oh, United States, United States. How that God would have hovered you as a brood. Hen does its brood, but you would not. Now this voice is going from coast to coast, from north to south and east to west. How God would have hovered you, but you would not. Now your time has come. Nations are breaking. The world is falling apart. 1,500-mile chunk of it, 300 or 400 miles wide, will sink 100 or maybe 40 miles down into that great fault out down there one of these days, and waves will come out from the state of Kentucky. And when it does, it'll shake the world so hard that everything on top of it will shake down. Get out of it and get into Christ. That's solemn warning. We don't know what time, you don't know what time that this city one day is going to be laying out here at the bottom of this ocean. Oh, Capernaum, said Jesus, thou who exalted into heaven will be brought down into hell. For if the mighty works had been done in Sodom and Gomorrah, it had been standing to this day. And Sodom and Gomorrah lays at the bottom of the Dead Sea, and Capernaum's in the bottom of the sea. Thou city who claims to be the city of the angels, who's exalted yourself into heaven and sent all the dirty, filthy things, the fashions and things, even the foreign countries come here to pick up our filth and send it away. Because your fine churches and steeples and so forth the way you do, remember, one day you'll be laying in the bottom of this sea. You're a great honeycomb under you right now. The wrath of God is belching right beneath you. How much longer you'll hold this sandbar hanging out over that, when that ocean out yonder a mile deep will slide in there, plumb back to the Salton Sea. It'll be worse than the last day of Pompeii. Repent, Los Angeles! Repent, the rest of you, and turn to God. The hour of His wrath is upon the earth. Flee while there's time to flee. Mrs. Simpson, I don't think she's with us today, or I see Brother Fred sitting here, but I don't know where Miss Simpson is. She went and got a prophecy that I made about 1935 or something like that, and said the time would come, it's written in a book somewhere, that the sea would weep its way into the desert. Look what will take place. If that thousands of square miles falls down into the lava of the earth and slides in, there'll be millions die at one time. And that'll cause such a tidal wave. Remember, plumb up into the Salton Seas 100 or 200 feet lower than the sea level. That water will probably come almost to Tucson with that tidal wave coming across there. And the sea shall weep its way into the desert.